Welcome to podcast Pajak Tanpa Batas. I'm Audrey, your host. Joining me, Miss Anna.
Hi, Audrey. A pleasure to join. Greetings to all listeners.
Okay, so today we're going to discuss about the tax treaty between Indonesia and China. What it is, what are its key provisions, what's changed recently, and what you or your business need to know. To begin this podcast, could you please explain what this treaty is and the legal foundation that gives it authority?
Certainly, the treaty is formally titled Agreement between the Government of the Republic of Indonesia and the Government of the People's Republic of China for the avoidance of double taxation and the prevention of fiscal evasions with respect to taxes on income. Was originally signed on November 7, 2001 in Jakarta. The treaty entered into force on Indonesia's side on August 25, 2003. Later, there is a protocol signed in Beijing on March 26, 2015 to amend certain provisions. In terms of legal basis in Indonesia law, 1. The treaty is one of Indonesia's P3B agreements, Perjanjian Penghindaran Pajak Berganda (Double Taxation Avoidance Agreements). In Indonesia's legal system, treaties ratified by Indonesia become part of domestic law often after publications. The treaty interacts with Indonesia's income tax law (PPH) and related implementing regulations. On China's side, similar. China has DTS, we call it double taxation agreements, with many countries, including Indonesia. The treaty is recognized under China's law and has effect according to whatever domestic ratifications and implementations processes.
Great. So now we have the legal foundation. Next, what are the main features or benefits of this treaty for taxpayers, such as individuals, businesses, for operating across Indonesia and China?
Yeah, Audrey, here are several key benefits and features. First, avoidance of double taxation. The treaty ensures that income earned in one country by a resident of the other country is not taxed twice. For example, by allowing tax credits or reduced withholding rates. Second, withholding tax rates. For certain types of passive income, dividends, interest, royalties, the treaty prescribes maximum rates. For Indonesia China, dividends up to 10%, interest generally 10%, royalty also 10%. Third, business profits and permanent establishment peak errors. If a Chinese resident business conducts business in Indonesia, taxation depends on whether the business has a permanent establishment in Indonesia. If not, then Indonesia generally cannot tax the business profits. If there is a PE, then profits attributable to that PE may be taxed in Indonesia. Fourth, technical or professional services. There are provisions about professional services and technical services and how they are taxed depending on whether these services are tied to PE and the durations or scales of such services. Fifth, eliminations of double taxations via credit. The treaty provides in Article 23 for the eliminations of double taxations by way of tax credit in the resident country against the tax paid in the source country up to certain limits. 6. Exchange of information and preventing tax evasion. There is an Article 26 in the treaty that allows for exchange of tax relevant information between the two tax authorities to prevent evasion.
So far, this seems stable. Well, has anything changed recently? Any updates, protocols, multilateral items affecting this treaty?
Yes, good question, Audrey. Some recent developments to be aware of. First, the protocol mentioned earlier, March 2015, updated certain provisions of the 2001 treaty that remains in effect. Second, in Indonesian government's tax treaty rates published for China, the withholding rates are currently 10% for dividends, interest, and royalties under the P3B Indonesia-China Treaty. Third, there is increased global attention, including from Indonesia and China on BEPS, we call it best relations and profit shifting measures. Indonesia has been implementing OECD or MLI type measures, while I have not found a public amendment of the Indonesia-China Treaty via the MLI that changes core treaty rates. Treaties globally are being assessed to prevent treaty abuse. Also, domestic legislative or regulatory updates in either country can affect how treaty provisions are implemented in practice. Example requirements for certificate of residence, beneficial ownership tests. These procedural things may have become more tight recently.
That's actually very helpful. Well, can you please walk us through a few practical examples or maybe hypothetical so that us listeners can see how this might work in real life?
Of course, Audrey. Example one, dividend payment. Suppose a company in Indonesia pays dividends to shareholder who is resident in China. Without a treaty, Indonesia would withhold perhaps its domestic rates, which could be higher. Under the treaty, the rate is capped at 10% of the gross dividends, so the Chinese shareholders benefits from a lower withholding. Example 2, interest payment. A Chinese company lends money to an Indonesian company and receives interest. The treaty limits the withholding tax on interest to 10%, again assuming all requirements of beneficial owner documentations are met. Example 3, service or PA scenario. If a Chinese corporation provides consulting services in Indonesia but doesn't have a PE, under the treaty, Indonesia cannot impose tax on the business profits from that service. However, if there is a PE, say a branch office or workshop or employees in Indonesia over a certain durations, then profits attributable to that PE are taxable in Indonesia. Example 4, eliminations of double taxations. A person resident in China has income from Indonesia, has paid tax in Indonesia. Under the treaty, China will allow a credit for that tax up to a certain limit. So the individual is not taxed again in China on the same income.
Well, what about the limitations or pitfalls? What should businesses or individuals watch out for when they are relying on the treaty?
Yes, there are some important qualifications. First, beneficial ownerships. To get treaty benefits, for example, reduced withholding, the recipient often must show they are the beneficial owner of the income, not just a channel. If not, domestic higher withholding rates may apply. Second, certificate of residence or documentations. One must have proper proof that the recipient is a tax resident of one of the contracting states, often with a certificate from the tax authority. Without correct documentations, the treaty benefits may be denied. Third, permanent establishment. The definition of PE in the treaty can be strict. Whether a PE exists depends on factors like fixed place of business, employees, durations. If a business accidentally creates PE exposure, its profits attributable to that PE will be taxed locally. Fourth, domestic law overrides. Even with a treaty, domestic tax laws still govern many aspects, procedural rules, anti-avoidance provisions, documentations, penalties. Sometimes domestic law changes or court decisions which affect how treaty provisions are applied. Fifth, treaty abuse or BEPS concerns. Both Indonesia and China are sensitive to treaty shopping, artificial arrangements intended just to get favorable treaty rates. If the arrangement is not genuine, tax authorities might deny benefits. Six, changes over time. The treaty is from 2001 with protocol in 2015. While fixed treaty terms remain, there may be changes in tax base, new taxes, or domestic law changes that interact with the treaty.
Good points. Well, for someone or a business considering doing cross border operations between Indonesia and China, What practical steps would you recommend to ensure compliance and optimization?
Okay, Audrey, here are recommendations. First, always obtain certificates of residence and maintain proper documentations proving beneficial ownership. Second, review whether you have a permanent establishment exposure. If so, understand what profits are attributable to the PE and ensure you compute them properly. Third, stay updated on domestic regulatory procedures in both countries, especially any changes in the tax law or regulations. Fourth, consult a tax professional familiar with Indonesia-China tax treaty because small details like whether a service is technical versus professional can lead to different tax treatment. Fifth, for planning, analyze withholding tax costs and whether treaty rate benefits are available. For instance, when entering contracts with involving royalties, interest, or dividends. Six, monitor any international developments such as BEPS, OECD, or MLI that could impact treaty interpretations or enforcement.
So, before we conclude, is there anything new in the recent years or very latest that might be occurring or potential changes we should keep an eye on?
While no public major renegotiations of the Indonesia-China treaties core rates appears in my research, the following are things to watch. First, implementations of BEPS 2.0 or Pillar 2 and other OECD measures could lead to changes in how low tax jurisdictions are viewed, and possibly revisions of domestic rules to counter BEPS erosion. Second, any domestic amendments in tax laws in Indonesia or China that change definitions of income, burden tax base, or increase compliance or documentation requirements. Third, possible negotiations or supplementary protocols in future. Many countries are updates treaties after many years, especially to address digital economy e-commerce, and etc. Also, the fourth, changes in procedural requirements, how to claim treaty benefits, how tax authorities verify claims, and audit risk.
Wow, thank you so much, Miss Anna. That gives us a pretty comprehensive view.
You're welcome, Audrey.
Okay, so to summarize, Miss Anna, the first one is the Indonesian-China Double Tax Treaty 2001 with Protocol 2015 helps prevent double taxation with CAPE withholding rates 10% of dividends, interest, royalties, and rules on business profits tied to permanent establishment. Second, but to benefit, you must satisfy a few requirements such as beneficial ownership, correct documentation, understand PE exposure, and domestic law interactions. And the last one, you need to keep an eye on any regulatory updates or treaty changes, especially in the context of global tax transparency and BEPS. Well, if you have any questions, feel free to ask Miss Anna, and I will be very happy to make a discussion with all of you. Thank you for listening to Podcast Pajak Tanpa Batas. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Audrey.
I am Anna.
Until next
Next
time.
time.
Bye bye.